Emily sat perched on the edge of the paper-covered exam table, her knees pressed together, her hands nervously twisting the hem of her sweater. The sterile scent of antiseptic filled the small room, mingling with the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above. She glanced at the clock on the wall, every tick echoed in her chest like a drumbeat. She hadn't been to a doctor in years, always putting her needs last. Between caring for her mother, who had been bedridden since her stroke, and working back-to-back shifts at the corner cafe, Emily convinced herself she was fine. But the exhaustion, the dizzy spells, the constant ache in her chest, she couldn't ignore them anymore. When Dr. Mason entered, his presence was calm, almost grounding. He had kind eyes behind his glasses and a gentle smile that instantly made the room feel warmer. "Emily," he asked softly, scanning her chart. "We'll do just a routine checkup today. Nothing to worry about." But worry was all she could feel. As he began explaining the simple steps of the exam, her mind spun elsewhere, to the overdue rent, the prescriptions her mother needed, the gnawing guilt of not doing enough. Her breathing quickened. She tried to steady herself, gripping the paper sheet beneath her. The words from Dr. Mason's lips began to blur. A heavy wave rolled over her body, dizziness, a faint ringing in her ears. Her hands trembled as the room seemed to sway, and before she could call out, the world tilted and rushed into darkness. At first, there was only blackness, a quiet void where time didn't seem to exist. Then, slowly, sounds began to pierce through, the distant shuffle of footsteps, the rustle of fabric, a low and steady voice urging her to stay with him. Emily's lashes fluttered open, and for a moment she couldn't place where she was. The ceiling light above seemed softer now, less blinding, and there was a warmth surrounding her that hadn't been there before. Her cheek rested against something firm yet gentle, rising and falling with steady breaths. Confusion clouded her thoughts. Then, with a startled realization, she became aware of strong arms cradling her, one beneath her shoulders, the other supporting her legs. She was being held as if she were fragile, precious. Her head tilted slightly and she found herself gazing up into Dr. Mason's face. His expression wasn't clinical or detached, his brows were furrowed in deep concern, and his hazel eyes searched hers as if making sure she was truly there. A lock of her hair had fallen across her face, he brushed it back carefully, his touch almost tender. "You're safe," he murmured, his voice calm and unwavering. "Just breathe, Emily. I've got you." Her chest rose with a shaky inhale. She tried to speak, but only a faint sound escaped her lips. The panic that had gripped her moments ago began to ebb, replaced by the strange comfort of being held, of not having to stand on her own. Just for this moment. Dr. Mason carried Emily down a short hallway to a smaller, quieter room away from the bustle of the clinic. The faint scent of lavender drifted from a diffuser in the corner, and the lights were dimmer here, softer on her weary eyes. He eased her onto a cushioned recliner and knelt beside her, never rushing, never looking at the clock. "Here," he said, placing a cool bottle of water in her trembling hands. His tone wasn't that of a busy doctor hurrying through his day, it was warm, patient, as though she were his only concern in the world. Emily sipped slowly, her breathing steadier now, though her cheeks still burned with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice quivering. "I don't know what happened." "You've been pushing yourself too hard," he replied gently. "This isn't just about today, is it?" The words caught her off guard. She looked at him, startled by the quiet understanding in his eyes. Something in her broke open. She found herself telling him about the endless nights caring for her mother, the extra shifts at the cafe, the bills that piled up faster than her paychecks. Dr. Mason didn't interrupt. He simply listened, his brow softening with every word, his hands folded patiently in his lap. When she finished, her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I'm so tired," she admitted, the words a confession and a release. "You don't have to go through this alone," he said softly, and for the first time in years, Emily believed it. Emily sat back against the recliner, her hand still wrapped around the half-empty water bottle, her pulse finally slowing. The room felt suspended in time, like a safe pocket where the rest of the world's demands couldn't reach her. "I didn't think anyone noticed how hard it's been," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but this time she didn't look away. Dr. Mason leaned forward, his elbows resting lightly on his knees. "I noticed," he said gently. "I see a woman who's been carrying more than anyone should. And I see someone who deserves care just as much as she gives it." His words struck something deep within her, an ache she hadn't allowed herself to feel. She'd spent so long being the strong one, the reliable one, that she'd forgotten what it was like to be on the receiving end of kindness. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she quickly brushed it away, but Dr. Mason shook his head softly. "It's okay," he said, offering a small, reassuring smile. "You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to rest. Let people help you." For the first time in months, her chest didn't feel so tight. The weight on her shoulders seemed to shift, lightening just a little. In that moment, Emily realized that strength wasn't only in enduring, it was also in accepting help, in letting someone catch you when you fall. Her heart, once burdened, now stirred with a fragile, growing hope. Later that afternoon, Emily stepped out of the clinic doors, blinking against the golden light of the late sun. The air felt different, crisper, cleaner, as though the world itself had shifted during her time inside. She clutched a small folder of papers Dr. Mason had prepared for her, a treatment plan, a list of support resources, and even the contact for a social worker who could help with her mother's care. But what stayed with her most wasn't on paper. It was the memory of his voice, steady and kind, telling her she didn't have to do it all alone. Emily paused on the sidewalk, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face, and for the first time in months she didn't feel crushed by her responsibilities. Instead, she felt lighter, like someone had reached into the tangled knots of her life and gently started to loosen them. She thought of her mother waiting at home and imagined walking through the door not with exhaustion, but with a spark of hope to share. She thought of the strangers around her, each carrying their own silent burdens, and wondered how many of them needed to hear what Dr. Mason had told her. Emily turned back toward the clinic, catching a glimpse through the glass of him speaking to another patient with the same calm care. She smiled to herself, her heart swelling. Sometimes healing doesn't come only from medicine, it comes from the kindness of someone who reminds you that you are never truly alone.